Okay, so guys, what we're going to do today is basically turn our short program into what is hopefully something like long-lasting results. Like, because that's what we're going to do here. It's all about behaviors in the end. It's all about actions. It's all about taking all the things we've learned and actually, having a change in, oh, look at this. And see if we got it on board. Hey, welcome, Antonia. Happy to see you or hear you. Maybe not. Can you hear us?
Hey, yes. How are you?
Hey, it's here. We just started, so perfect. Welcome aboard.
Awesome.
Good news. So, okay, what I really want to do today is kind of go through how we're going to turn all these lessons and this massive program that we've gone through and make it into something that is inside our world every day. Hopefully in a subconscious way, so we don't have to think about it. It just happens, which I think is amazing. We have done a bunch of things together, and I know it's been huge, and I know it's been a lot to take in, but we're going to take the best part of it and use that today. So this session specifically is made for you guys who you see the value, maybe even feel a little bit overwhelmed by all the things, but like, holy shit, there's a bunch of things that I have to learn, and you want to learn it and you want to implement it, but it's hard. You don't really know how to turn this into your life. So that's what we're going to talk about. And it's also for you guys, you kind of you do your sessions with us and you turn off the webcam, and then it's like, okay, next, off to the next thing. So that's totally me. Every time I do a training, it's like, okay, I'm so focused on the training, and then I move on to the next thing. So I forget about the implementation. And it's also for us all that's like human, we forget shit, and it's like the implementation is the hard part. So we're going to talk about all those things today. And the party of today is like for you guys to take the most valuable lessons and the most relevant things and make that into behaviors. So it doesn't take any time or effort to do the right things, building healthy habits, building habits or movements in life that takes you to where you want to go. And the basic setup is something like this. We're going to do like an introduction, which I'm doing right now. Then we're going to go into the workshop with Sylvia, and then we're going to round it off with something like, okay, what's the next step? Like, what are you going to do now? Does that sound good for you guys?
Sounds great.
Whoop, whoop. Perfect. So consider something like this, right? You take a fitness course. They'll teach you all about proper nutrition, effective exercise, the importance of rest. And you get excited, you're pumped up, you just really want to get this thing going. But then it's like week number 3, and it gets a little bit boring, and you're like, you slip into the good old habits. So basically, all the time you spent learning all the theoretical stuff is more or less wasted because it didn't turn into something. This is why I think all the big gyms in January are packed, and in February, like the same people who were there last year, like the habits didn't stick. They have all the information, they know what to do, but it didn't become something in their real life. And that sucks. At least I think so. So I just want to make sure that we get this set up properly, because theory alone doesn't solve any problems, right? You could be thinking about everything and knowing everything, but if it doesn't turn into action in our lives, it's basically, in many sense, I would argue that it's almost worthless. It's almost a waste of our time, right? I love learning new things and I love theory, but I also know that if I don't use it for something, it's like, shit, maybe I wasted my time. So I want to make sure we absolutely do not waste our time with this program, but actually turn this into something that you will find valuable. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't have to be huge. All the small things happen, or the big things happen incrementally. So even if it's a tiny baby step that we take today, that's going to be a big one. And we basically talked about this already. But I really want you to look into the future for a few seconds and think about who you will become if you master the small things that will create big things in the future. We have done this exercise of where you want to be in the future and what type of leader you want to be. You just dedicate a few seconds to kind of figure out, okay, who do you want to be in this, and where this habits might take you. And what we see and what we're talking about is that without this skill, without the delegation skill or the ability to move tasks from your plate to another task, the chances of you having that ever expanding to-do list, it's almost certain, right? And it will lead to at least high stress and hopefully not burnout, but it will increase the risk for that. And we agreed upon that we definitely want to get away from that. Still with me? Still makes sense?
Yep.
Excellent. Oh, thumbs up. Love that. Perfect. So my thought today is like, let's do that different, right? Let's take all this overwhelm, all these big things, and like, oh, holy shit, how do we do this differently? How do we make it so it's part of our life? And how do we make all this, high theory, big picture, and make it do something super, 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 super tiny, so we will actually do it? That's where I want to get today. And I'm on this journey together with you guys. Like, I'm going to use this training we're doing today with Sylvia for my own benefits as well. Like, I'm going to take my shit and make it into new habits or reinforce the old ones. And then you're like, oh, well, I think most of you probably already know this, but it's really worth mentioning. This is not like a, something I made up or Sylvia made up, or it's like, oh, we just think this is a cool idea. Like, no. We know the brain changes. And we know that repeated behaviors physically alter the brain structure. Like, if we do something enough times, it will be part of us. Which means if we do the right things, whatever we consider to be right, we do it enough and for a long time, it will be us. We will be that person, So if you can see someone, your future self, and you can figure out what the heck that person is doing, and you can start doing that today, then it's just a matter of time before you become that person. And that is ridiculously cool. I don't know about you, but I think that's freaking amazing. You basically have the ability to become whoever you want to be, as long as you figure out what parts of that future you can implement today. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it sure does. But it's the hard part.
Can you say the last part again?
It's also the hardest part.
Yep. And hopefully we have an expert with us today who can make it easier. So here's the thing, right? We're going to turn course material or whatever we've done into regular habits. And that will allow us to reprogram our brain. There's a bunch of fancy words for this, but basically it just like teaches our brain to operate in a different way. A new manual or a new handbook for how we see and operate in the world, something like that. And this is also something that's called PCS, or some pretty cool shit, honestly. Like, could you imagine that? Pretty cool shit. So who's going to take us on this magical journey? Some of you probably figured that out because we have an extra guest with us today. And I've already talked about her. But Sylvia Vitos, is that how you pronounce it?
That's correct.
Yes, nailed it. I've been practicing for 35 minutes and I finally got it. And this is basically the part where I'm looking for you to kind of like introduce yourself and, put us on this road to making this a part of our lives.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabriel. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, ladies, taking the time. I'd like to acknowledge you for valuing yourself that much, to invest into yourself. I think that's huge in today's fast-paced environment. So actually, we are going to go on a journey about habits and routines. And my aim is to give you a bit of a more in-depth understanding and a meaning behind the what and how, so that you can connect more dots and you can have a deeper understanding. Why is it so difficult to implement certain things? Why is it so difficult to change? And how can you make it easier for yourself? Because that's what we want at the end of the day. So I will share my screen. And there will be some introduction slides as well, so that I can speak about it. 1 second, just picking hopefully the right one. Please let me know when you can see.
I got it.
Yeah, it's visible, right? Cool. So first things first, my name is Silvia Vitos, as Gabriel spelled it 100% correct in Hungarian. So I'm coming from Hungary originally. Currently, I'm living in Dubai, in United Arab Emirates for the last 8 years. Prior to that, 6 years in Germany. And overall, I have spent 15 years in corporate in logistics industry across various countries, started as a trainee in my home country, and then continued through Germany and here in UAE, was part of various Fortune 500 organizations. And in my last role, I've been part of the country executive management team in UAE. That's been about 3 years ago. And basically, I was really excited to take on my first leadership role about a little over 10 years ago. And as you probably know, coming from a similar environment, the only thing that is constant in any corporate organization is change. And also my skills and abilities were tested greatly. So I've built up a very diverse department with global responsibilities from scratch, transformed poor performing individuals into employees of the month multiple times, and I've led teams through major mergers and acquisitions successfully, where different cultures, different systems, work ethics, and more had to come together. But of course, all these success didn't come easy. And I also worked really hard for every recognition and sacrificed my health, sacrificed my sleep, my relationships, and all these stuff for success back then. And I did that to the extent that there was not really a way back. I was pretty much developing more or less all these symptoms that you see on the screen right now. And around mid-2020, my frustration just reached its peak. And there were emotional outbursts, quite normal or regular at that times. And I'm normally a strong woman, but I remember crying every other week in one of the corners, just not knowing what to do with my life anymore. So I got to the point that my resignation letter was lying on my table and the date was waiting to be filled in. But what really held me back from submitting it was my team and my commitment to my team, because I didn't want to let them down. And then the turning point came a couple of weeks later, where unexpectedly I received my layoff notice. And I'm saying it was unexpected because I've just had an amazing performance review with my manager at that time, 2 weeks prior to that. So it seems that universe had other plans for me. And that day also marked the day when my personal transformation began. So I embarked on the journey of self-discovery, went back to study, started working with some of the most amazing mentors and coaches worldwide, and keep evolving ever since. Fast forward today, I founded my company Livity, Maximize Your Wellbeing. And with Livity, I'm on a mission to help corporate leaders and executives to live a happier and healthier life. I've got certified in variety of coaching skills, health coaching, life coaching, leadership, emotional intelligence. A couple more, received an outstanding leadership award for my contribution in the field. So that's where I am right now. And I think it's also kind of enough about me, and we can start diving into habits.
I don't think we're enough about you just yet, because I have something.
Okay, tell me.
So the thing that I think makes your perspective really unique is that when most coaches, whatever in your experience, they have picked a super narrow thing, right? They've picked one little branch. Like I know a guy, for example, who teaches delegation. It's important, but it's a part of it. But what I think you've done so beautifully is you're like, okay, leadership equals human beings in some sense. And you're like, okay, what's the holistic approach that we need to have? And I think that's really what sets you apart from a lot of them. Like there's a human that needs to work. And if that human doesn't function, then, your leadership is going to suck. And your work's going to suck and your life's going to suck. And, you're going to wait until it's over, basically. So I think that's a really cool thing that people should know, that and correct me if I'm wrong, like your perspective is a holistic approach to leadership.
Yeah, correct. No, thank you so much for adding that. Absolutely. So I totally approach things from, I talk a lot about mindset related stuff. Habits is one of those elements under mindset umbrella. Health set, which is the physical well-being, heart set, which is the emotional intelligence part. And you can have any of these or any of two these elements in place. But if any one of these is missing or not ticked in the box, then you will not be able to achieve a fulfilling leadership success on your own terms. So this is the main reason I decided to take the holistic approach and go for the challenge. So by the end of today's session, you will have a bigger understanding or deeper understanding about what are habits, what is that habit loop, that is the circle of each and every habit we do have. Then we are going to talk about an installation protocol, activation energy, and most importantly, how to create good habits and how to break bad habits. So you will have the step-by-step guideline for that. And after the session, Gabriel is going to share with you session notes and the worksheet, which will help you put it all into action and implement on your own and in your own time and space. So hope that you will find that very helpful. And here we are. So what are those habits? I like to start with just acknowledging and recognizing that the human brain sitting on your shoulders is the most complicated object in the known universe. And I love this statement, and this is so true, because if you just put it in perspective and think about that, our brain only makes up 2% of our body mass, but it consumes 20% of all the oxygen that we inhale, and it consumes 20% of all the calories that we intake. That's quite impressive statement about what kind of a computer machine we have in our head. And habits as such are nothing else than a redundant set of automatic unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through repetition, as Gabriel, you rightly pointed towards that in your introduction. Means you have done it so many times that your body literally knows how to do it better than your mind. So when the body remembers better than the conscious mind, then it's becoming a habit. Maybe you can recall a time when you needed to enter your PIN for your credit card and you just don't remember the number, but your fingers already entered the number, right? So your body knows it better how to do it than your mind. You did it so many times. You are not thinking how to put right leg into the trousers and then the left leg when you are dressing up in the morning, or how to walk right feet after the left feet. You just do it because it's automated, it's unconscious, it's just part of our everyday life. So what do you think? How much time in a day we are running on these subconscious automated programming habits? Any guess, percentage, just whatever comes to your mind. You can also put it in the chat or just unmute yourself and throw in a number before I reveal.
I would guess 60%.
60%? Okay.
I'm gonna go for higher. I'm thinking like 98%, something ridiculous, right? I don't know.
90%. Okay. 95%. And this is the most important. If you take anything away from today's session, then this is the one that probably should be it. 95% of the time we are running on subconscious automated programming, and we only do have the 5% of conscious awareness to utilize, to become aware, to bring those things to the surface and understand what is going on. How do I behave? How do I act? How do I react or respond to certain situations? And how else I would prefer to be so that you can set certain actions that will help you reprogram your mind. This ratio is serious and it's just not a joke. So we easily underestimate. We like to believe that we are so much aware of everything that we do. Unfortunately, we are not. We are nothing else than walking, talking computers as such. And this is why understanding more about the habits will help you tremendously, because that 95% is completely developed by the age of about 35. And yeah, that's how we basically function. So I'd like to talk to you about that so-called habit loop. And while I'm talking about it, maybe you can also reflect on yourself and think about what is maybe just one habit that you would like to create, and what is one habit of yours that you would like to break. Maybe it's a bad habit that you would like to break or get rid of. So Charles Duhigg, in his best-selling book, The Power of Habit, suggested that there are three main components of the habit loop. And the first one is the cue, which is a situational trigger that's based on a reward that you are seeking. So it triggers your brain to initiate a behavior, and it can be linked to any of your senses. Maybe you see something, maybe you hear a noise, maybe you smell something in the air. Whatever it is, it will be a trigger that will remind you on a certain action that you want to take. And from here, we will put the routine into action, and that is the physical or emotional action you take to obtain that reward, which comes at the end of this circle. So that's the satisfaction itself that you seek. So in this little imagery example, for example, you are drinking coffee in the afternoon. Shortly after lunch, you are getting tired. So the cue will be the time shortly after lunch will be that gives you the prompt that, okay, you are getting tired now. What's the response? Let's grab a coffee. So you will grab that cup of coffee because you want to get re-energized. You want to feel again productive for the rest of the day. So these habit loops are happening thousands of times every single day, but we don't have the energy to become aware of it. One question for you here: what do you think? Why do we need habits? Why does our body and mind need these habits to be developed? How does it serve us? Anyone?
So I'm thinking about it like a shortcut, right? Save some energy, save some time. It's just like, if I don't have to think about it, it's minimum resources to get things done, whether or not it's good or bad.
Hit the nail on the head. Yeah, it saves us energy. And linking it back to how much energy our brain is consuming, once something is implemented, put on automation, it doesn't require our attention anymore. It just gets done because there is the trigger, there is the cue, the reward, and it goes on automation. That's exactly how it works. Good stuff.
So cool.
So here is a beautiful quote from John C. Maxwell, who says, "You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret to your success is found in your daily routine." That's how important it is. And my next question to all of you is, what do you think, or how best do you know, how long do we need to implement a new habit, to establish a new habit? How long do we need? What's the common belief?
Oh, I heard something about 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
That's the 21 days.
I don't know, but it seems short. I mean, maybe I would double that.
Double that? 42?
Do you have any guess, Antonia?
I've heard it can be 6 months. I've heard 3 weeks. I'm not sure.
Yeah. The most common response I receive is the 21 days and the 30 days. And actually, what it really is, I rarely hear, it's not really out there, but here is the reveal. That's about the habit installation protocol, which says 66 days. So you can read about it in Robin Sharma's book, The 5 a.m. Club. You see that above my head, somewhere there. It had a huge positive impact on my life. Highly recommend that book. So he explains in that book and breaks it down in detail. But researchers at the University College of London made a study in 2009, and they were asking hundreds of students to implement some kind of diet and fitness related habits. And then they were monitoring their progress throughout. And what they found was that the installation took an average of 66 days, but of course it ranged from about 18 to 254 days. So it really depends on where are you right now, what is the new habit you want to implement, and how do you build the bridge in between those. So as Sharma says, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And I couldn't agree more. What happens actually is the first phase is all about the distraction. And that's that 21, 22 days, what is also out there. But this is really just where we are dismantling some old habits. So if you drop the ball after 21 days, you will very easily fall back to your old habits and not be able to truly implement the new one, whatever you are trying to embody at this point. Because if you think about it, if it wouldn't really be hard, then it wouldn't also be a real change that you are doing. So when you move into phase 2, which is the next about 22 days, that's called installation, because that's where you are going through kind of an internal renovation. That's what I could probably compare it to. So that's the stage which will make you feel totally confused, stressed out, and frustrated. You will keep questioning yourself, why the hell did I even start with this? Like why I came up with this idea was really a bad one. Why am I doing it? So you will feel like quitting even more. And when you are aware that this stage is coming, you can be prepared for it. And that's a very important part to be aware of. So how to be prepared for it? To keep reminding yourself on your big why, the motivation. Why are you doing it? What will be the reward once you really manage to implement? How will that serve you? What will you gain out of that? Yeah, and then in the last phase that it gets a little easier, that's the integration part, the final stage. That's where everything slowly comes together. So here you will start to experience the benefit of all those discipline and commitment to take on that new habit. And this is also where it slowly becomes automated. Means it will be easier to do it than not to do it. So means when you, for about 2 months, manage to go to the gym every single day, then when you miss a day, you will kind of be craving it. You just already want to go, and it will be hard to skip because you just have this desire to be there every day because you established the habit. Okay. I want to pause for a moment just to ask all of you if there is any question that may have came up for you so far.
I just think that what you said about it becomes easier to do it than not to do it. I think that's the beautiful part of it. Like, okay, so I have this thing, and if I do that, then I will become someone who I want to become. And if that thing becomes automatic, like I don't even have to care about it, it just happens. Mm-hmm. That's the super powerful thing you're talking about. And I think that's super cool.
It's very powerful. And this is why knowledge is powerful, because once you know that this is what you can expect, then again, you can prepare for it. You know that this comes, and otherwise you will just drop the ball. Latest at stage 2 when it really becomes overwhelming. And yeah, it makes a huge difference, at least in my life. Definitely, I keep using that. So cool. I like to bring into your attention the power of the activation energy, which is very important to keep in mind whenever you are jumping into, okay, I want to go for this habit. And we like to say, okay, I'm not really running at all, or I'm not really going out for walks, but as of tomorrow, and I live a very sedentary lifestyle, so I'm lucky if I get in maybe 2,000 steps in a day. As of tomorrow, I'm gonna go for 15K, 15,000 steps every single day. So where is the problem? Now, in chemistry, for example, the more difficult it is for a chemical reaction to occur, the bigger the activation energy. Maybe it's easier to relate that way. For habits, it's the same story. So when the more difficult or complex a behavior, the higher the activation energy required to start it. So here, as the example shows, sticking to the habit of doing 1,000 steps per day or 1,000 extra steps per day will require very little energy to get started. It will feel easy. That is it doable? Yeah, sure, I can do it. Go for it. Meanwhile, doing 15,000 steps every day is a habit with a much higher activation strategy energy. So it's going to take a lot more of motivation to be able to even start. You will feel already that huge resistance and pressure before you even started, because it feels heavy. It feels like a big challenge, right? So this is why it's important to keep in mind and remember to always start small steps. Yeah. I think what I also like to mention here is, as a reminder, that before we even go into the action of the certain habit, we need to establish the habit of showing up, right? So before you go for a run, just get used to showing up. Just put on your shoes, get out to the track, even if you don't run, even if you don't walk or do anything, but you have been there, you showed up. And then you can build from there. That's also something you can consider to build upon. Okay, so remember that. And then
and I mean,
yeah, please.
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million trick. I totally agree with that. Like,
Mhm.
and are you going to look into how small of a habit you should start out with? Are you going to talk something about that?
Well, not precisely, but this is what is, because it's different for everybody, right? This is where either you reflect deeply for yourself, or you ask for help from a coach who can guide you to to put down an action which will be suitable for you. Because it might be that I want to increase my number of steps to 15,000. The runway to build it up might look very different for me than it is for you, and then it is for someone else, because it is important to consider where I am right now, what feels easy, fun, enjoyable, doable, and then I can build upon that over a period of time. So you just need to map it out, and even throughout the process, listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your emotions, watch your thoughts, observe what thoughts are coming up, and work with yourself, because every single small tiny things have an important message and meaning, and this is how you can personalize whatever habit you would like to implement for yourself. But I will be sharing additional tips and tricks, and obviously the steps are coming, what to consider when you want to create a good habit. Okay. So hopefully all of you has something in mind by now. What is that good habit that you would like to implement for yourself? So you can start reflecting as I talk about it. We'll throw in some examples from different areas so you can start picking up on those. And as mentioned before, after the session, Gabriel will be sharing a worksheet which will go through these exact steps that I'm sharing here with explanations, with examples, so you can sit down actually and map it out for yourself. All right, so let's dive in. So you will start with defining what is it that you want to achieve. Okay, set the goal to just know where you are heading to. That's the first and most important step. And secondly, that's an important one, and that will be another $1 million hint, most likely for many of you. Who are you with that new habit? And that's a big mistake that many people do, that they are trying to become someone else with their old identity. And it will not work, because you cannot become a non-smoker while you are considering yourself as a smoker. You understand? So every single statement that starts with an I am, this and that, is describing an identity of yours. And it's a very important trick that the moment you start applying the new identity and keep repeating for yourself, it will work like magic. I had clients who quit smoking on the spot by just this one trick, exactly like that. So that they started, that was one lady actually who started to, from one day to another, consider herself, I am a non-smoker, because she wanted to quit. And she stopped smoking, and with the new identity, and of course dressing it up like, how would a non-smoker respond in this situation, in that situation? How would that person behave, act, respond? And this will give you really valuable ideas on how do you want to show up with your new identity when you establish that new habit. So that's a very, very important one. Decide the type of person who you want to become, and then prove it to yourself through small wins throughout the journey. Okay. The third step is to break it down into chunks. So here it comes with the breaking down element. To give you a couple of examples, like consider it what is very easy, moderate, hard, and very hard. Let's say you want to write a book, but you will not start with writing a book. First of all, you start taking on an identity that I am a writer, even if you don't believe it yet, but start trying it on. I am a writer. And then you identify that a very easy writing part would be just to write a sentence. Anyone can do that. You can do it right now. Then the easy part is to write an entire paragraph. Still easy, doable. Any of us can do it right here, right now. Then the moderate category will be write about 1,000 words, becoming a little more challenging. The hard part is to write an entire chapter. And the very hard part becomes to write a book. So break it down. What does it mean throughout this journey? Okay. Then aim for just 1% better every single day. We easily underestimate the power of daily, disciplined, seemingly meaningless actions. It's crazy. If you just take a calculator and calculate it through, becoming 1% better every day for one entire year means you are 37.78 times better by the time you are done. It's quite powerful. So the habits are basically compound interest of self-improvement, if you like. Yeah, so aim just for 1% better every day, aim for discipline, and you will see that you will come very, very far. Moreover, focus on the process, not the goal, not the end goal. That's another mistake that many people do, that they just want to be able to do something, and then they lose the joy of the process itself and the fun of the process itself. So the result you want to achieve versus how you get there is really here the differentiation factor. Yeah, so for example, when someone is, you may have heard a couple of people or know a couple of people who is aiming to be able to run a marathon. And it's all about preparing for that, running a marathon. And once that marathon run is done, you meet them 3 months down the line and they stopped running because they achieved the goal. They forgot to fall in love with the process itself, and they forgot to become a runner as a new identity. So they achieve that goal and then they lose it all. That's where what do you really want to achieve and how you are able to focus on the process itself. Moreover, make it easy, attractive, and satisfying.
Can I add something here?
Yeah.
So
sure.
I think some of you guys, and let me know if you agree with it, this sounds like a lot. What do you think, Pernilla? And what do you think? Like there's a lot to this. They've zoomed out. Okay, so
No, I haven't. I'm just walking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, it sounds a lot, but it also sounds really easy, actually.
perfect. So what I'm thinking is like this. Whether or not you are, so you're going to create habits. Living your life is creating habits. You know, it's just a matter of like, are you going to make them intentional and go in the direction where you want to go, or you're just going to like pick up things that other people put onto you, and that becomes a habit. You know, whether it's like scrolling Instagram, or if it's, you know, creating a habit, leadership habit, or whatever towards, you know, your goals. But habits will be created. So like maybe you don't need like an exact specific list of doing things, but I think the core here, like you're saying, Sylvia, is that, you know, the things you do continue to do becomes your habit, and it doesn't have to be complex. You know, you have a few guidelines here. Break it into chunks, make it small, do it all the time, and it will become something. But what came up for me was the thing that we will create habits whether we want it or not. So the question is, do we want to create healthy habits, or do we just want to, you know, be the victim of our surroundings in some sense? Just my few thoughts.
Yeah, very important point there. And this is where, again, the 95 versus 5% comes in, because most of our habits are just getting created without us even realizing it. It just all of a sudden, oh, I never used to do this before, but now it's just normal. So we don't really catch ourselves. And the more we are doing reflection, the more we are becoming self-aware, the more we will understand what we are really doing that serves us well, what doesn't, and then how to keep improving, growing, learning, and elevating all those habit sets that we have. And it's quite a work. And I hope that it sounds simple, because it should sound simple. Easy? No, it's not easy. It's not easy. Once we put it into action, it's really not easy. So yeah. So how do we make it easy? For example, you can use the 2 minutes rule. Whatever takes less than 2 minutes, just do it immediately. You automate as much as possible. Email filters, phone in silent mode, whatever supports the desired habit that is to be created, make it easy. Make it attractive. How to make it attractive? You surround yourself with people who consider your desired behavior as normal. So if you want to become a fitness junkie, then hang out with people who actually love doing sport and going to the gym. Because if you keep staying with lazy people and the ones who are complaining about taking 2 steps forward, and they are just busy with drinking, partying, and whatnot, then this is who you will become. And that also is actually the last point. I know there is one more, the satisfying, because your environment matters that much. You become the mix of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So pick your environment, pick your friends and surroundings very consciously and very carefully. And circling back on the satisfying point, how you make something satisfying is that so why to make it satisfying is that because you are more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is something rewarding. So you want to end your habit in a way that it is satisfying. You can reward yourself with something ideal, something small or reasonable as such. But it has to be something that is supporting the act. Like when you exercise, for example, and that's your new habit being implemented, then rather than rewarding yourself with a big bowl of ice cream, which will work against your ideal goal, you maybe reward yourself with a yummy protein shake that will support the growth of your muscles and development, right? So like make sure it also is connected.
So good.
And makes sense.
So well said. I see that all the time.
Yeah. Now I moved a little bit. Now I deserve that big Snickers or whatever it is. So don't do that mistake. And there is just one more small element here, the habit line, which is circling back on the installation protocol, the A, B, and the C, basically describing the 3 phases of how it looks like when you are implementing the new habits. A bonus idea, get specific and make an implementation intention statement. You will have space for that in the worksheet. Actually, many studies have shown that implementation intentions are effective for just sticking to our goals a lot more efficiently. So people who make specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. And then you can just make a statement that I will do this at this time in this location. And when you have this statement and speak it out loud, share it with your loved ones, with your friends, get an accountability body, then you are pretty well equipped to actually win. Yeah. So these are the steps to creating good habits. Any questions or thoughts that any of you would like to share?
Is it the same way if you want to quit a bad habit?
That's the next slide. It's a little bit backwards, but yeah, that's the next step. We are going to go into how to break the bad habits. Okay, if nothing more, then let me move into that part. So how to break the bad habits. Now we are circling back to the habit loop, because this will give a very important baseline. So what we want to do first is to map out your habit loop, to identify what is that trigger, what is that cue that is initiating that certain routine or habit that we have, that we want to overcome. So coming back to this example with the afternoon, shortly after lunch, we are getting tired, want to grab a cup of coffee so that we can get re-energized. But I'm drinking too much coffee already, so I don't want to have so much of coffee. I want to reduce that amount. What do? Now I know shortly after lunch, I'm going to feel tired. And this will give you here the answers. Keep the cue and the reward. Change the routine. Means time is there. I'm going to get tired. I want to get the reward. I want to get re-energized. And I don't want to drink so much coffee. So what do I replace it with? Maybe go and take a walk around the building block, which will be very refreshing as well. And you will feel similarly re-energized like you would do after having a cup of coffee. Yeah, this is how you can work it around. So you change the routine and then taking one step at a time. Warning here, it's not always really easy to identify these cues and triggers. So keep testing it out, keep asking yourself the question, keep guessing around until you really have the right cue or trigger, so that you can identify the loop and then replace the routine itself. Now, how you can support this whole process? You can make it invisible. What does it mean? Remove the cues of your bad habits from your environment. For example, are you snacking too much? Then maybe don't keep the big bowl with chocolate chips or whatever on the counter, so that you just pass by, you get the trigger every time that, oh, let me just grab one. It will not harm. Support your newly desired identity and habit that you want to implement. Make it unattractive. You can, for example, reframe your mindset in a way that you highlight the benefits of avoiding the habit rather than taking or making a pity party about what is it you are losing out. So, for example, by choosing not to smoke, you will not be stinky. So you will vote for your health and for the health around, for the health of those around you too. So focus on the positive, and that will help you make the bad habit unattractive and make it difficult. So if you have a lot of distraction, then through your phone, because it's just next to you all the time and keep giving you all kind of notifications, then give your phone away to someone you trust for 2 hours, so you have a distraction-free environment, and just close your Outlook as well for that time, and you can have a full focus time for 2 hours. Make it difficult for yourself to be able to access that something which is fueling your bad habit. Make it unsatisfying as well. So, for example, getting an accountability partner and making an open statement about your new choice, like, I will give up smoking, and you make that statement out loud to the accountability partner, it is already a halfway win, because you will be fueled by this wanting to prove your capability that you will go through this, because now I made a statement to someone else is watching. Don't underestimate the power of that. So this is how you can work around for the breaking the bad habits. And I would like to close this with another beautiful quote from Jim Rohn, who says, either you run the day or the day runs you. I think it's hits home pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then here we are with some Q&A. If you ladies and Gabriel have any further questions, this is what I had for you today. Curious to hear any feedback as well. What was new? What's your key takeaway? Do you find it helpful?
Could you go back 2 slides? I think I had some thoughts there and some questions.
To the creating.
This one, perfect. How to break the bad habits. So I'm my head goes to like the, what's it called? Like the Pavlov's dogs. Do you remember those? Yeah, right. Like the very simple, but what seems to be effective, right? Like, here's a physical treat, a candy if you do something good, and then there's a physical, dissatisfaction, pain, or whatever if you do something bad. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sounds like a more, nuanced or a more balanced way to do that type of thing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And again, we underestimate the power of these small elements. We think that, okay, I just gonna quit tomorrow, or I just gonna stop doing this as of tomorrow, but we don't put a plan behind the act. And then you find yourself 5 days down the road falling back again, and you don't understand why. And another thing is, when you keep saying that, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, right? How often we make this statement, all of us, we are all guilty of that. I'm not any different, right? Like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. This is a habit. that you may want to look at a little closer and make a conscious plan, because it's in the 95%. So grab your 5% of conscious awareness, make a plan for it, follow through, and use all those little nuggets that I've just shared here that will support this act if you really mean it. Because also sometimes we really need those arguments and finding the meaning and really understanding how this will serve us. Because one thing you don't want to forget, that your body follows your mind. Your body follows your subconscious mind. Remember the pin code story? So that your body will want to go and feel comfortable. It will go for the familiar, for the known. It wants all that warmth and comfortable. So this is the biggest reason why change is so difficult, because change doesn't happen in a comfort zone. Whenever you are wanting to overcome like a bad habit, it will feel uncomfortable. It will be challenging. It will be emotionally distracting and mentally as well, until you reach the installation or deinstallation of that bad habit and replace it with something more useful, obviously. So it is all interconnected and intertwined.
So this is super interesting. And I'm also wondering, like, so there's a distance between the cue and the reward. There's a distance between that in time, right? So something happens, you do something, and then you get a reward or punishment or whatever. And like,
Reward.
how do you connect them to?
Right.
Like, how do you make sure that the reward gets enforces the cue again? Or like, so you have a good loop, so I don't have my reward like get mixed up in some sense. Like, so let's put it this way. I want to start a routine or a habit of prioritizing all of my tasks in the morning, which I think some here in this program might want to do. And how do I put like a good reward that connects me to the prioritization in the morning? Do you have any good thoughts on that?
And let's pick a different one, because the example you are saying is about creating a new habit. So remember that when you are about to create a new habit, you don't have a habit loop yet. You are establishing the habit loop at that time, right? Pick something that is a bad habit that you want to break. There you already have a habit loop. This is where you identify the cue and the reward, and you will want to swap the routine itself. And it may not be easy to identify. It may require some journaling, questioning, going back and forth, figuring it out, because sometimes it's deep.
Yeah. Super interesting. Do you guys have any questions? Otherwise, if you don't have any questions, I'm going to ask you each a really difficult question.
But I have a question.
Perfect. Good save.
Yeah, I know. Can you give an example on how to make a task, like pick it into smaller pieces? If you, for example, want to, you want to start exercising. You want to go for 4 days a week. Do you just do it for 1 day a week for 4 weeks, or how do you do it?
This is where, very good question. And this is where the personalization come in, right? Like I could sit down with you and find out where are you right now? Like what is the level of exercise you are doing? How is your lifestyle right now? So that we can identify what is it that would feel easy, doable. So you want to go for, your end goal is to go 4 times a week. For how long each time? 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours? How long should that be?
Maybe 1 hour. We can start with that.
1 hour. Okay. Yeah. So how much exercise do you do right now? What is the starting point?
Well, it depends. Usually I bike every day, so 2 hours of bike every day, but maybe 1 to 3 times per week of exercise. except for the biking.
Mm-hmm. 1 to 3 times per week you exercise, and you want to increase it to 4 times per week for 1 hour. Is that correct?
It's just an example, but maybe 3 times a week and want to be consistent.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we really would just want to identify personally for you, what is it that right now would give an increment of increase, easy enough to begin with, and just go with that. So, for example, if you do it 1 to 3 times, you want to increase it to steady 3 times, then let's say 2 times a week, is it something that feels easy? If not yet, then maybe you just want to first extend the 1 time by 10 minutes, because then you already increased the overall exercise before you start splitting it. Or
Okay,
you add one session, but you just do a 15 minutes something.
Okay, so I do the habit until it feels easy enough to increase it, and then I adjust the increment. No, the amount I increase with, so it still feels kind of easy.
Yeah, exactly. So you maybe do that for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's really important that you keep checking in with yourself, right? How it feels, how is it going? Now you are disciplined with this one. Now you are ready to add a little bit more and add a little bit more until you get to this disciplined 3 times a week. And by the way, there are people for whom it just functions better when it's all in. Right? When there are people that's why it's the unique personal approach is critical, because that's to make it easy. You will still need the support for it in terms of watching out for how to make it easy, how to make it satisfying, how to make it enjoyable. You don't want to force yourself, like it has to flow. And for some people, it's just, okay, I go all in, but I need someone to hold me accountable. I need someone maybe to come along with me, so it will be fun. I will be looking forward to it. What works for you? This is where a coach can play a very important role, who will, not necessarily the fitness coach, but someone who helps you in your building that lifestyle, who will hold you accountable and customize a plan for your unique personal needs, because we are humans, we are all unique and still different, right? Is that helpful, Pernilla?
Yes, it's really helpful. It's a part of where I go from the habit that I established to increasing that I was asking about, and you gave a really good answer. So thank you.
You're welcome. What you want to watch out for is how you feel about it. Your emotions are messenger. Emotion is nothing else than energy in motion, and they will always give you a clue. So some people might say that, okay, I go all in 3 times in a week. I'm excited. I feel it's totally doable. I can incorporate in my lifestyle. I'm good. I'm going. And for others, it might feel like it's a huge mountain. I need to build it up. So you take the increments, you take small steps, watching out for the activation energy and watching out for the small elements that I was sharing, which will ease up that whole process.
So
Yeah.
that's what comes up for me is something like, I mean, the easiest way to build a habit is the most easiest and simple way is to not do anything at all. The problem is that doesn't work, right? Because if you don't do anything, nothing changes. But
yeah.
So my question becomes like, okay, what the heck is the absolute minimum shit I could do to build the habit? I'm not so focused on what the habit is, like, how long I would work out, or like journaling, for example. I always wanted to journal So I'm like, okay, I got this big journal. I'll write a bunch of questions, and it'll take me 200 hours to go through because, and then I'm like, okay, my habit is to create, or my goal is to create the habit. And the habit just says that I got to open up the freaking document.
Yeah.
And that's a success for me. So literally, and my goal is still the same. It's 4 years later. My goal is to open up the document. Most of the days I fill out my questions, but some days I just open it and like, screw it, I don't want to do it. So I think like ridiculously small things can be very powerful.
Absolutely.
For some people.
And that's for most people, actually. And this is exactly the habit of showing up before you establish any kind of habit, you got to establish the habit of showing up. So even if you do nothing in the gym, but you go there, look around, smell it, whatever, have a chat with the receptionist, I don't know.
Yeah.
You went there. So you reinforce the synaptic connection in your brain that you have been there. Believe me, it serves you. It is a victory already. And it doesn't feel like, because it's like, why the heck to go there? Like, this is meaningless. It's just a waste of time. It is not. And by the way, even smaller action could be just visualizing it. Because when you are visualizing something, your brain does not know the difference, whether it's imagined or real. It doesn't know the difference. So even if you just sit down every morning and visualize that I'm opening my journal book and I'm writing my thoughts out on the paper, your brain is considering that you are doing it. There are several impressive studies, by the way, out there where, for example, a group of people were split into two groups, and one of them were going to the gym, doing the same exercise, I don't know exactly how many times in a week, and working out, versus other group was just mentally repeating the same, visualizing. They didn't touch any weight, they didn't do anything, didn't go to the gym. They were just visualizing, imagining as if they are lifting the weight and feeling the heaviness in their muscles. And actually the muscle growth was very close to for the two groups, sorry. So it's quite incredible what our mind and body is capable of, and we just totally underestimate, and we are not aware of it. So visualization could be another tool as a go-to.
Very interesting. Antonia, did you have a question? It sounded like that before.
Yes. So when you try to create a new habit that you're doing, like, for example, 3 times per week, how do you count the 66 days? Like, is it every time you do it, or like the time you've been doing it?
It's every time you do. I mean, first of all, remember the 66 days was in average. And the 66 days is for daily disciplined action. Yeah, okay. So therefore it's every time you do it, but you don't want to leave a too big of a gap. So it's rather you do it every other day than to do 3 days in a row and then nothing for 4 days.
Okay.
You will go further away if you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, weekend off, and then you keep doing it, and you will see how it unfolds for you, how it starts feeling easier. Because it's, again, you could also utilize the visualization in between where you are not showing up in the gym for the exercise as such. So it can become really complex, actually, depending on what is it you are implementing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Jakub, you have any questions? I don't know when you popped in here, but maybe you just joined at the end.
Probably the questions. Trying to get bits and pieces from the workflow. Yeah, I'll follow up later.
No worries. Okay, cool.
All right, so let me just stop sharing it. So I hand it back to you. So again, for all of you, Gabriel is going to share with you not the slides because it's more of just supporting material, but session notes, which will summarize everything that I was just talking about. And also a worksheet, which will enable you to go in and map it out for yourself. If there is any way I can support you, you will find a QR code on the worksheet as well, which will lead you to a link tree. So please feel free to reach out. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you like. And if you need any support with your habit installation, implementation, or anything else, by the way, around creating a healthy lifestyle in the corporate realm, then please feel free to reach out and I'm happy to support you. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking actively part of this session. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Gabriel, for the invitation. It's been great fun contributing to your group of people. Heart from Antonia. Thank you so much.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it
That's
was really
perfect.
great. Yeah.
So
Thank you so much.
I would love to hear from you guys. Like, what are some takeaways or some like, aha, I didn't think about that. Did you want to
Please.
share with us? I would love to hear some of that.
For me, it's just like I always do the cold turkey or everything all at once, but this time I'm going to try it small pieces at a time and just see if it works. I think it's going to work because it feels easy, and that's a good step, I think. And maybe not start with all of them at once, just try one of them or two of them. And the 66 days or 66 days. So I have to actually wait for 66 days before it feels like a good habit is established.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's also like, when you think about 66 days or 200 days or whatever, it's like, that's a long time. But then you think, well, if this is a healthy habit and I get to bring this for the rest of my life, then like, who gives a shit if it's 200 or 365 days? Like, if it sticks with me for the rest of my life and it's beneficial, like, it's probably worth it, right?
And this is where it's so important. This is where it's so important to start or to learn to enjoy the process itself and don't get too obsessed with the end goal, because it will easily divert you from where you are actually at right now. So when you are able to establish a process that's enjoyable and you know that this is leading you to something even more meaningful, that will be gold.
So cool. Do you want to share something, Antonia?
Not really.
Got it. And Jaco?
Yeah, it just really rings the bell that the crucial is not the end goal, the end state, but the journey. It has to be enjoyable for ourselves personally in every given moment, because that's the key of how to establish new habits, and not talking about them as habits in a way that that that's something what we have to push forward, but living it naturally. So yeah, I'm sorry, I joined a bit later, but I really appreciate the point in regards of how important is to to visualize the things, because that's something what in my personal case, what what is kind of like breaking the habits is when I am stopping visualizing the things in a bigger picture, when I'm losing the perspective about where am I heading? Where am I heading in regards of my feelings, not about in regards of the end goal. So it's very easy to focus on the end goal and losing the feeling. Yeah. Thanks for your valuable info.
Thank you, Jakob, for sharing your thoughts. And you will receive the recording as well, so you can check on the earlier part of the session as well. Hopefully, you will find some additional valuable stuff there. But yeah, glad that you found it helpful.
Cool. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to run this session off and kind of look at the future here and how you can access all of these things. Unless you have any more questions for Sylvia right now. Okay, perfect. So as some of you know, we're operating from the school.com platform right now. I'm going to move all the things that we've done over to school.com platform, and it's just way easier to communicate, have all the things over there. And that's also where you will find all of this stuff. As always, it always shows up in your calendar. I just want to make sure that you see the same thing as I do. So I just want to show you here. So if you can't find all the recordings and you're like, oh, which freaking message was this or whatever, I'm just going to run this through you. Let me know when you can see my calendar. Let's see. Can you see it now? Perfect. Okay, so if you go to your the habit session we have done today, if you go into one of these guys, you will find at the notes down here, it will say you will find the link or the file to the recording. See if I can find an old one. Language lab. Of course, I don't know. Like this, it looks something like this. So down here, you'll find the video, and here you'll find the transcript. So that will automatically upload to there. But so the new system, and some of you guys are on board with this, and you can join that if you want to, but it's basically where I'll put all the delegation mastery program into. So you'll find the prioritization thing here, and then basically the entire program will be divided in chunks, because we're talking about habits today, right? So the delegation mastery program in the future will look totally different. It will be based on the principles that we talked about today, like making habits out of things, making them so small that it's like it's barely noticeable the effort it takes to implement it. So we did a 90-minute session on prioritization. But the new way of doing it is literally breaking it down to a 15-minute prioritization game, where you can either watch the video, you can listen to the audio, or you can read the instructions. So you can basically get all these things in whatever format you want on your way to work. And once you get to work, or however, whatever you're doing, then you go straightly to how to do it. So you listen for 10, 15 minutes and you implement at work. So we're basically skipping most of the instructions, most of that, and just here's the step. The step is micro small. And then you do it, and then you get the rewards. So that cycle we've been talking about, like that you do something, you get a reward, you build that routine and the habit. That's what this entire thing is based upon. So I want to tighten that circle of you do something, you get a reward as close as possible to increase the possibilities of building a healthy habit of something you want to do. So that's a big part of how this is structured. And then I also have a step-by-step things. We have talked about structuring our calendar. We talked about blocking routine events. All of this is laid down in 10-minute modules. So holy shit, I want to get my time back. I want to sort my shit out. Here's how to do it, step by step. So that's how the next iteration of the delegation mastery will look like. And it's all thanks to you. All the feedback you have given me, all the things you've told me, and all the interactions we've had has shaped this next part of the program. So I'm super grateful for that. And all of the information that I put in here, you already have access to. It's just maybe a little bit less organized. You will have to go to the calendar and stuff like that. Okay, any questions about this or how this work or stuff like that? And a quick question: what do you think about this setup instead of the delegation mastery program, or like the big 90-minute sessions that we've done?
I would say that it can reach more more people in our small group. I think that we've been always capable to allocate like 2 hours a week for the session. But you was always stressing that there are a lot of at least potential leaders who doesn't even have an opportunity to allocate 2 fixed hours for stuff. So this, from my point of view, opens up the program for those who are, for whatever reason, not capable to allocate the fixed time, but still are capable to allocate the same amount of time in a very flexible way for the content, which at the end is the key to move our delegation and management things forward. So I like the form. It's very new for me. I would say that everyone likes games, which hopefully will attract more people, even those who are not so great in having the full attention for real content and interaction. So very interesting concept. I'm looking forward to help you to grow it forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really think that's, and that's, I can't understate this. This is thanks to all the the extra work you have done for me or together with me to kind of build this into something that I really think would be super valuable. And so if you have people in your surroundings who are like managers, leaders, whatever it may be, and you think like, holy shit, they probably want to learn how to prioritize their time, get their time back, and build a team that needs minimum guidance, but performs at their highest level, peak performance. If that's something, people like that, I would love for you to just share the link to this thing and introduce them to it. That would be super helpful. It will be like 99 or $129 a month, but it's 9 now. So if you want to do your friends a favor, this would be it. This is making them a really good favor if you think that they would benefit from this. And if they don't, they can cancel whenever they want. So they won't hate you. So that's fine. Cool. Awesome. This is our last formal session. We all have calls to do together. And I think most of you guys have booked them. But if you haven't, you got about 7 more days to book and execute, or they will disappear because it's the last month. Or you choose to join the leadership games, and we will just extend it, and you can you could pick whenever you want to do it. And Jakub, you just joined, so I'm super pumped about that. Super excited. So you get to keep your stuff for ever and ever. Cool. Okay, that was my stuff. That was Sylvia's stuff, and that's what we wanted to do today. Is there any questions I can ask, or any questions I can ask? Any questions I can answer? I can ask a lot of questions. Perfect. And Jakub, as you might see, I'm in Malaga. So let me know when you're free. And Pernilla,
Yes, I'm still around. Yeah, I'll let you know.
And Pernilla, I'm coming to Sweden in June around the 9 to 14, and hopefully we can figure something out. And Sylvia, I do not know when I come to Dubai, but I will. Because I want to go now. You sold me on the idea, so now it's happening.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Me too.
And I hope to talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
thank you.
Please,
Bye.
Have a great evening, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good evening. Bye.